would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker. Licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. We've got an interesting one today. It's one that we do fair, I think, on a regular basis. In terms of yearly reviews, expectations, kind of helping us guide where we might look for that next big opportunity marketplace. And I'll give you the lowdown on what that actually means in the next couple of minutes. Before we get going, let me remind you how to get in contact with me. The best way is through the website at therebelbroker.com. Once you get there, you can click on contact to reach out to me via email. Or you could go to the very top of the page, click on the Take the Survey to Support the Show button. When you do that, you just offer the same email address both times you're asked, answer a handful of questions, and not only are you helping the show by taking the survey, but you're also getting yourself in the running to win a $50 Amazon gift card. We've already given out $200. We do it once a month, and we'll be doing it again in February. So jump in and help the show, and at the same time, give yourself a chance to win $50. In addition, you can also get yourself into the Rebel Underground. To do that, simply text the word Rebel Broker. It's all one word, Rebel Broker, to the number 44222. Follow the prompts. The prompts will let you know that you're communicating with the right thing. Follow the prompt, and then you're in. And then you'll get inside scoops, access to some exclusive material for folks in the Rebel Underground. It's still sort of in the getting going stage. We haven't really started things there, but it'll kick into gear here pretty soon, and you'll be able to take advantage of that. I wanted to also thank those of you who have really helped in growing the show. I noticed that we have ended up on the front page of the iTunes application for business investing 2 days in a row, which is great. The only reason that the show gets that kind of placement is from folks downloading the show, listening to it, making it more popular, and iTunes reflects that increase in usage by putting you higher up in the rankings, and you've managed to get me onto the front page. So thank you very much for that. And of course, welcome to the new listeners who've discovered the show by finding it on the front page of iTunes. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you find that we are offering some valuable returns on your investment of time in the show by giving you maybe new ways to think about things, or giving you some clues into some areas that you might not have thought about in terms of focusing on your investment interests, or maybe you're just trying to look for the right place to buy right now for whatever reason, looking to relocate. Hopefully we can help you with that too. Today's show, I think, is going to be interesting for a lot of folks, even if you're someone who just keeps track of real estate because you think it's interesting. We're going to talk about 2017's best cities for jobs. Good reason to do that. There's a lot of different reasons, and it's something that should appeal to just about everyone. If you are someone who is looking for that career move, you want to move someplace that isn't as nuts to live. For instance, let's say you live in the Bay Area and you're tired of the average home price being, depending on where you live in the Bay Area, anywhere from $800,000 to $1.8 million. And you want to find someplace else that has a lot of jobs on the horizon, but you want to have a lower cost of living, maybe take the stress levels down a little bit. There's going to be some cities on this list that will absolutely fit the bill. If you're an investor, you're trying to figure out where that next big opportunity is going to present itself, well, what better place to look than where lots of jobs are projected to be added? You add a lot of jobs to a community, you tend to add a lot of folks who are going to need a place to live. So that could mean either you're going in there and you're making homes that aren't really living up to their full potential. You're buying them, improving them, and then flipping them. And hopefully, because there's this increase in employed population in these communities, you're now satisfying a need that's growing in that community in terms of folks wanting improved homes, move-in ready homes. Or maybe you're someone who's going to provide a rental property for someone who's going to relocate to this area for that new job. Tons of opportunities there. If you're someone who is an owner who lives in these areas and you've been trying to figure out the best strategy to get your home sold, well, maybe this is a window to you to figure that out, because you'll be able to look around, see that you're on this list, and realize, well, you know what? Maybe 2017 is a better time frame for me to do this, because we're going to see more people moving here who are looking for jobs. Now, this data is coming to us from the folks at wallethub. These are the same folks who have provided us a couple of other different perspectives on how to evaluate different communities, and they've been a pretty good source of info in the past. This article that I'll be sharing with everyone is actually coming from realtor.org, so there will be a link to that in today's show notes. And let's see, several cities are expected to see explosive growth in their job markets in the coming year, and where jobs are plentiful, usually the housing markets get a boost too. Nationally, employment is looking up. The national unemployment rate has dropped to 4.6%, the lowest since 2007, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, of course, we've talked about the labor numbers before. We talk about the unemployment numbers, and it's also very important to not just focus on the quantity of jobs, but the quality of jobs. And I'm going to suggest that you do the exact same thing in your local community. Now, this list that is ranked according to jobs, we're going to talk about the top 10, but you can go over to wallethub, and I'll include a link to that article where it's 150 of the most populated U.S. cities. Obviously, we can't go through the whole ranking. Maybe we'll go through the top 10 and the worst 10, the least good 10, so you can get an idea. And they took, for this particular evaluation, they took 23 key indicators to measure the job market strength, including job opportunities, median annual income, and employment growth. And we're going to cover the top 10, and we'll probably also look at the bottom 10. But go and get that report if the places you're interested in, if areas you've thought about investing, or the area where you're located, or the area where you want to live isn't mentioned in the top or the bottom of this list. You might want to head on over, check it out, see where the communities you like most fit in this particular piece of data. Because even if you've got a comfort level with a certain region for whatever reason, you know the markets, you know how they move, you have a good feel for it, knowing that at the very least the growth in jobs is positive, right? You're not seeing a contraction. Then it could absolutely still spell an opportunity for you to potentially take advantage of that. Maybe not to the degree you could in some of these top 10 cities, but at least you've got some insights into what to expect as far as the trend is concerned. Now, the other thing I'm going to suggest you do with this information is not just take it as your go card to jump in and start investing in one of these communities. As I've said before, it's important to understand the quality of the jobs that are going to be coming out, because some of these jobs, if you see a lot of job growth in certain areas in just the service industry, you are not guaranteed that these are the kinds of jobs that would facilitate buyers of homes. So you need to calibrate yourself to that if you're trying to figure out what your investment strategy is going to be. Now, it's still valid information. It doesn't mean you should discount a city because the jobs that are going to be created tend to be lower income positions. It simply means that you might want to change your strategy to renting. While someone may not be able to come up with the down payment, or their debt to income ratio may not work for borrowing in your area because of the income that they're going to make from this job that they're taking, they will still need a place to live. So there's a good opportunity for you as a landlord to potentially provide these folks with what they're going to need. Okay, so let's go ahead and remember, these are projections for 2017. So this is trying to look over the horizon a little bit and give you some advanced warning on where these hot communities are going to be. So it's a great starting point. Now, one of the new things that's going to be coming out from this channel is going to be what to do once you've decided on a community you're interested in looking at. Now, I know I've been promising this for a while, specifically in taking a look at my interest in Sacramento. And that's going to be happening very soon. I know we've been talking about it for a while, but I promise it's coming. And so what you would do, what my suggested workflow would be once we've talked about an area that sounds good to you for whatever reason. Today, we're talking obviously about job growth in various areas. But if you find that it's some show down the road and one of the communities that we talk about sounds exciting to you, we'll be putting out a video that will get posted to YouTube that will walk you through exactly what you need to do in order to evaluate those properties to the point where the next step would be for you to probably physically go visit the area and get some ground truth, find some local experts who can help you with your search, and just make sure you've got all the information you can to make the best decision possible. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in and start with this top 10 list of 2017's best cities for jobs, according to wallethub. Number 10 on our list is Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, let's just quickly look at what some of the basic numbers are for Raleigh right now. The median sales price in Raleigh, North Carolina is $225,000. I like that. As in terms of a barrier to entry, that's relatively low. I like that it potentially offers you an ability to get in there and find homes that will financially not represent as much of a blockade to you in order to be able to jump into this particular market. In addition, we're seeing a median rent per month of $1,350. That doesn't quite meet the expectations that we'd want to have for an area like this. Now, remember the 1% rule, where we take the amount we finance. So for a $225,000 loan, assuming that we have an 80% loan on the property, that would mean we'd want, and then we go with 1% of that, we would want to make $1,800 per month. So it's close enough, though, that I'd look more closely at this to see what sort of specific transactions I might be able to put together that would be positive cash flow. I'd say it's still within the realm of possibility in terms of something you could put together in terms of a specific deal. And that $225,000 median sales price is just too attractive to not chase down a little bit and see if we couldn't make that one work for us. All right, next on our list, number 9 is Tempe, Arizona. Now, I'm probably butchering that. Tempe, Arizona, again, another community that does not have a huge barrier to entry. And when you're thinking Tempe, it's a suburb of Phoenix. It's right around Phoenix, Mesa, Gilbert. It's actually just sort of east of Phoenix. And that entire area actually presents a lot of opportunities. And it's one of those places that if I was looking to invest, I'd absolutely be looking in Phoenix. I've a lot of the folks I talk to here in my local area talk about different job opportunities in that area. So I think in general it's a good place to look. But again, $255,000 is the median sales price in that marketplace. Median rent $1,375. So again, a higher median sales price with about the same median rent as we were seeing in our last community. So still not quite where we'd want it to be, but given the other benefits, I think it's still worth looking at and potentially finding some specific properties that might just fit our needs. Next on our list, number 8 is Salt Lake City, Utah. I don't think Salt Lake has actually been on any of our recent lists in terms of communities to look at. So it's interesting that it jumps in at number 8 in terms of job growth. Now, as I mentioned, Salt Lake's coming in at number 8, and the numbers on this one are quite a bit further off than I would like to see normally when I'm comparing rents to sales price. Now, in this case, we're not getting sales price, we're getting the average list price, probably because this is in a state or locality that does not make those sales prices public information. But the average list price is $472,000, $224,000, and even if we assume a 10% drop, right, in what we'd actually pay for any one of these properties, that's still way out of the range that we'd want to see, where a median rent per month, according to what I'm seeing here on Trulia, is $1,500. Another interesting thing I'm seeing that's a little bit odd is a kind of widespread, at least in central Salt Lake, going through Agricultural Park, Rose Park, Capitol Hill, Glendale. I'm seeing an awful lot of pockets of crime that are a little bit concerning. That's usually one of the first things I check. I'm looking for crime hotspots, and they seem to have 3 or 4 different little hot spots here that are a little bit more connected. They're large enough that they actually connect with one another. So that would be something that would put me off a little bit for Salt Lake as well. But the numbers themselves actually don't even reflect a very sexy opportunity. So maybe that wouldn't be the first place I'd go to find an opportunity. Number 7 on our list, Chandler, Arizona. Now, again, this is another city that's right near Phoenix. In fact, this borders Tempe. It's actually the next community southeast of Tempe. So it's sort of Phoenix, Tempe, Arizona, Chandler, Gilbert, Mesa. It's all in that sort of grouping. So clearly there's just some growth going on in this area that's just a little bit more spread out. What's interesting about this is the median sales price is higher, $265,000 with a median rent per month of $1,495. All right, we're going to take a quick break right here, but we'll finish off the rest of this list right after a quick message, so don't go away.
Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner, broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909.
Welcome back, everyone. We are running down our list of 2017's best cities for jobs. We've already laid out why that's important. I think it's pretty clear and pretty obvious why it would be good to know this stuff. And it also can help a lot of folks focus their attention on areas that are likely to give them a better return on their investment over the next year than some other areas. Now, we've gotten down to number 7, which was Chandler, Arizona. Next on our list at number 6 is Rancho Cucamonga, California. Now, this is the first community on our list where we see a pretty big jump in that median sales price to $437,750. We do see median rent jump up to $2,372, which still puts us a little shy, more than a little bit shy, actually over $1,000 a month shy of where we'd like to be in an ideal investment scenario, where if we do the math, we have 80% loan, we'd be looking at something in the neighborhood of a $3,500 rent that we'd like to see. But it's interesting that Rancho Cucamonga is not one of those communities that we have seen, again, really appear on lists like this before. And it may be one of those scenarios where you need to shop a little bit more wisely. You're probably going to need to find something that may require a little bit more upkeep to close that gap between the amount we would like to make per month and the amount we need to make in order for the investment work versus what's currently happening in terms of the relationship between sales price and rent. All right, so next on our list, I suppose this one can't be much of a surprise, and while it's on this list, it may be interesting to look at just as something to consider, maybe a way to practice your numbers if you want to try and process specific properties. I'm not bullish on this one. San Francisco, California, which I suppose would surprise some people, maybe not, but that's actually kind of semi in my marketplace. I don't go all the way up to San Francisco, but I do frequently help people figure out data relating to investments in San Francisco just because it's sort of the big city to the north for us here, more in the Silicon Valley area. We've seen some interesting flattening. In fact, numbers we discussed over the last week relating to reductions in asking price happened in San Francisco. So that kind of shows you things have sort of topped out a little bit. And I'm just not sure that from an investment standpoint, these numbers make a whole lot of sense. I suppose that you might be able to find something, but these deals are going to be much more difficult to track down. And it's going to be a lot more difficult to make the argument that you can make these numbers work, given, I think, the way the market is looking currently. Just to really give ourselves sticker shock nightmares, the median sales price in San Francisco is $1.18 million. right now. Actually, I don't think that number is correct. I ran the numbers for San Francisco a couple of days ago, and actually it was a bit higher than that. Median rent per month is $4,100. And that's a pretty big range. $4,100 is still a relatively small place. I've talked to folks that are paying $3,200 for relatively small accommodations in San Francisco. So there's a lot of diversity in terms of what folks pay in San Francisco, depending on the amenities that they're getting or the size of the property that they're getting their hands on. Again, I'm just not so sure that San Francisco is a great choice. They are indicating that we're going to see a lot of job growth there. Some interesting things are happening in San Francisco. Some interesting things have happened in California. For those of you who've been listening to the show for a while, you know that a law was passed recently at the state level that's going to supersede an awful lot of local laws that are going to allow people to put income suites into their properties. And by income suites, I mean modify an existing single-family residential home to create a separate unit. You can put up a wall, close off a door, put a kitchen in that other set of rooms, and that's going to be covered by state law. I've actually had a number of you, and I'm kind of encouraged actually by the number of you that have contacted me for more information about that law. Now, sadly, I don't have more information. All I could find is really what I shared on the show. For those of you who are interested in doing this, I would strongly suggest you simply start the ball rolling. My guess is that local authorities are going to try to push back on a lot of this. I would actually contact the Sacramento, get a hold of, or do a Google search on the state site to get the actual text of the law and see what you can make work for you. I also had some folks asking of whether or not it would override HOA regulations, and I don't think that's the case. There are things that are null and void in certain HOAs. If there are HOAs or there are covenants and restrictions on a property that relate to race, creed, color, religion, those kinds of things, those are null and void and have been for a very long time. But HOAs that are simply saying you cannot create multiple units within your property, that's a civil thing between you and your HOA, and this isn't going to supersede that kind of thing. So you can ask around, but my guess would be that this law will not affect HOA rules. All right, so now we're kind of getting into the top areas here, and I'm kind of encouraged by the diversity. There are in the top 4. No state is there twice. Now, we've had California appear twice in this top 10 list with San Francisco and Rancho Cucamonga. Arizona's already made 2 appearances. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about these top 4. Number 4 on our list is Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Now, the data presented by Trulia for Sioux Falls is a little bit wonky. It indicates that the median sales price on the graphing part, the housing market trends, is at $160,000. But that's been flat for 2 months, which seems a little odd to me. And the median rent is right around $1,000. So you could theoretically make some of these work. And particularly when you look at a specific list, if you go into Sioux Falls and look at homes that are for sale, I'm seeing a 3-bedroom, 1-bath for $214. And if I zoom in here, you'd obviously want to get a little bit more ground truth. I don't know anything about Sioux Falls, but if we sort of just browse what's currently available, I'm not seeing a ton of listings here. I'm seeing a pretty healthy inventory, but I'm seeing 3 bedrooms, 2 baths for $99,000. I'm seeing a 1-bedroom, I'm not sure. It's a 1-bath. I'm not sure how many bedrooms. It doesn't list how many bedrooms for $165. I'm seeing a 2-bed, 1-bath for $132. And I'm tending to look sort of in the downtown area here of Sioux Falls. A 4-bed, 2-bath for $71,000 at the north end of town. I'm seeing a 3-bed, 2-bath for $164,900 at the south end of town. Now let's do a quick look at what rents are in this similar area and see what the reality is on the ground in terms of what people are paying. And looking at the map, you can see some interesting trends here. On the southeast end of town, I'm seeing a 3-bed, 2-bath for $1,600. I'm seeing a 5-bed, 3-bath for $1,800. And then in the southwestern end, I'm seeing prices at that same sort of range, 4 bedrooms, 2-bath for $1,475. And if we look at prices in those same areas, I'm seeing numbers that show that things might work well in those areas. I'm seeing 172,000, 190,000. So these are areas where you could get a decent rent and you might be able to close that gap pretty reasonably. So on a first assessment, and this is one of the things you do first, right? It'll be part of the overall overview of what you want to do when you're analyzing a property. And just take a look at where you're seeing trends. You can sort of identify areas, and particularly if you narrow your search, if for instance you want to exclusively invest in what tends to be the bread and butter of investment properties, or what folks are looking for, which tend to be 3-bedroom, 2-bath or better properties, you can even focus in a little bit more on what those homes are getting for in terms of rent. All right, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at number 3 on the list, which is Orlando, Florida. Now, the overall numbers for Orlando, Florida are actually looking pretty good. The median sales price is listed as $200,000. Median rent per month is listed as $1,500, which puts us pretty close. I mean, we'd actually probably want to be at around $1,800, but that's close enough that I feel like if you go in there and you're able to negotiate well, if you're able to get terms and conditions that work for you, that you could make those numbers potentially work. It's not exactly conforming to our 1% rule, but it's awfully close. In terms of trends, the median price is actually down a little bit in this month. It peaked back in October, but rents have been relatively stable. They've stuck at about $1,500 really since June of last year. So that's kind of encouraging, particularly when you take into account that this is an area where we're supposedly going to see a big jump in jobs available. I'd love to find out what kind of jobs we're talking about here for Orlando, and that's something that you could probably find out with a little bit of Googling. But on first blush, if we're expecting these to improve in terms of higher demand for homes for sale potentially and higher demand for homes for rent, we're in a good position for that probability to pay off for us over the course of 2017. So I would absolutely make this one of those communities that I would potentially look at if 2017 was a year I wanted to try to take advantage of areas where job growth is expected. Number 2 on our list, Plano, Texas. Now, Plano, Texas presents an interesting challenge here because the numbers are completely out of whack if we take them at face value from Trulia. Now, the average list price in Plano is listed as $542,386. So that's not the worst in the country in terms of barriers to entry to get your hands on that first investment property, but it's pretty high. It's a lot higher than most of the areas that we've talked about so far on this list. And what's odd is it has one of the lowest rents. It's only $1,900 per month in terms of the median rent. So I'm not real sure how to explain that discrepancy. If you're just going with this, it sure doesn't indicate that you could get anywhere near a payoff in terms of what you're looking for. The 1% rule totally throws it out of the realm of possibility. However, because the numbers are so out of whack, it makes me really want to look a little bit closer and figure out what's going on and see if there isn't something else playing a part here, or perhaps the average price is being skewed. Now, remember, Texas is one of those states where we don't get sales price, we get list price. So we need to figure that out. But what's also interesting is as I look at the homes that are available, I see a halfway decent variety. Let's see. I'm seeing a 2-bed, 3-bath for $162,000. I'm seeing a 2-bed, 2-bath for $100,000, but then I'm also seeing $1.8 million homes with 5 beds and 7 baths. So there's obviously some very interesting market segments here that are showing a range. And with that kind of a dramatic difference, you could see statistics being thrown off a little bit. Perhaps we've just seen a lot of sales at the high end in Plano that have sort of skewed these prices to a higher point. I would say there are areas here where you could absolutely find deals in the 150 to 350 range that look pretty reasonable. And then if we take a look at the single family homes for rent in those same areas, and I'm doing just sort of a rough compare here, you start to see some things that might just work. In the same neighborhood where I'm seeing a home listed for sale for about $200,000, I'm seeing $2,400 a month. So there may actually be situations, specific properties here where you could make this work. So just another lesson that if you like an area and you come across that first blush number of the 1% number not working for you based on generic numbers for the entire community, particularly when they're as out of whack as these were, that should actually be an encouragement for you to take another look, to look a little bit deeper, to try to explain why that discrepancy exists. Now, when we get fairly close, that kind of at least makes sense. If it's off by a couple of $100 or even as much as $1,000 in some marketplaces, that actually can exist fairly normally. But I'll tell you, when you see a huge discrepancy like what we were seeing in terms of the average rent versus the average home for sale in Plano, that really deserved a little bit more focus in order to figure out why that was happening the way it is. So now here we are. That was number 2, Plano, Texas. Number 1 on our list, we return to Scottsdale, Arizona. Now, just to calibrate you to what we're talking about here, this is yet another suburb of Phoenix. This one is northeast of Phoenix, just north of Mesa, and let's see what else. Which is right near Chandler. So, I mean, this is all basically the same general area of Phoenix that we've been talking about with the other communities. So, yet another community that I think represents a great opportunity. Now, Phoenix is on my short list of cities I would like to take a scouting trip to see what sort of properties are available there. I actually have a couple of searches running now. My MLS search won't go as far as Phoenix. Obviously, mine is limited to areas in California, but I do use Realtor.com to run searches regularly in some of the suburbs of Phoenix to get an idea of what's available there. Now, remember, these suggestions are all based on what we've been talking about in terms of growth of jobs. You can overlay other things. We've talked about Chandler. We've talked about, I think we talked about Tempe as well, and Scottsdale, which are all very much grouped together. And all of these areas look good from the standpoint of crime rates when I look at that. The median sales price in Scottsdale is $405,000 with a median rent per month of $2,500. So again, this is one that's a little bit more out of whack than we'd like, but given what we've seen in these other communities where it's not as out of whack, I think what that spells for you as an investor or a buyer or someone who's looking to relocate is a lot of variety of properties at different price points, because remember, we've also covered a pretty good gambit of sales prices. The average sales prices in Tempe and Chandler were quite a bit less than they are in Scottsdale. And this is also one of those interesting areas where if you're thinking about this from the standpoint of being an investor, understand the demographics of what you're dealing with. We've talked about this in shows in the past. Relating to kind of understanding who your customer is. And you know, the stereotype I get from Scottsdale is a retirement community. I mean, when I think of Scottsdale, that's what I think of. It's right near Paradise Valley. And I know an awful lot of folks whose parents live in Scottsdale, live in Paradise Valley, live up near Fountain Hills. So that would absolutely be something that I would keep as an important point if I'm looking to do a flip, because putting features into these homes that would appeal to that segment of the buying public would be a great way to go. Because this is also going to blend a couple of things. It's potentially going to blend slightly higher end buyers with retirement buyers. So a lot of interesting things there where if you're providing what folks are looking for, your home's going to sell faster. Or if folks are looking to rent, because remember, that's another thing we've talked about that's happening with folks that are sort of hitting that retirement age. Many of them are deciding to sell that home they own in California or Florida or New York or wherever they are, move to places like Scottsdale and rent instead of buy, and have that money more liquid in cash in the bank or in maybe some investments that are easier to turn liquid. And they're doing that at sort of a higher rate. So being able to provide that rental home can also be a very elegant way for you to sort of take advantage of these different markets. And I would guess that you're going to see slightly different makeups of the kind of folks that are going to be renting or buying from you in these 3 Arizona communities of Tempe, Scottsdale, and Chandler. And I just get the feeling that someone from Tempe is cringing every time I say that word, because I want to say Tempe. It's Tempe, yeah? For my whole life, I've said Tempe, Arizona, and now I'm saying Tempe. I have no idea what's wrong with my brain. I apologize. But let's see. So Scottsdale, I'm seeing a pretty good variety of properties as you head to the southern end of Tempe, I'm seeing 399, 296, 397, 230,000, 126,000 for a 3-bedroom property there. And then the northern, well, sort of the northern, Scottsdale is a bizarre city. It tends to be long up and down, north and south. And sort of as you hit the center area, I'm seeing 2.9 million, 9.25 million, 1.39 million, 975,000. So there's definitely some super high-end properties there, going all the way up to the north end where I'm seeing 4.6 million, 3.93 million. And then when we look at homes for rent, I'm seeing some pretty reasonable rates that fit in. If we're talking about southern Scottsdale, let's see here. 124,000, 126,000. And then in those exact same areas, I'm seeing rents for 1,700, 2,300, 1,400, 2,100. So maybe the Paradise Valley end of Scottsdale represents some good opportunities. But in general, what you're looking for when you're checking out these maps is that sort of thing. Where are you seeing geographic banding of pricing, whether you're talking about rents? And usually you want to compare the two together. If you're seeing a lot of banding, as I'm seeing here in a place like Scottsdale, where there are definitely lower priced homes in certain areas, but then when you look at the rents in those areas, they jive. That 1% rule seems to hold, seems to continue to work. So Scott, absolutely. If you want to kill 3 birds with 1 stone with communities on this list, I say buy yourself a plane ticket to Phoenix and then start checking these areas out. Or if you're in the mood for a road trip, head on over, check out these 3 areas, get yourself someone on the ground. And the great thing is you can kill all of these areas with one local contact. The folks, the real estate folks in Phoenix and these areas are going to be well versed in these particular communities. And if we do see the job growth that's expected and projected by WalletHub, these are going to be great communities to get involved in now as that transition to more jobs continues through 2017. All right, folks, I hope that has been valuable information for you, at least at the very least. I hope it's given you a few things to think about, maybe some communities to look at that you haven't thought about before. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'll talk to y'all next time.